Hello, friends and fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is Elle. Today, we are going to be talking about how to use your energy wisely. In other words, it seems that the world is in chaos and that we should all be doing our best to try to fix it. And how do we reconcile all the evil in the world and all the bad things that are happening? And, well, that's what we're going to talk about. What's the goal of you being here in this incarnation, and what is it that we're supposed to be doing? And that is everything that we're going to discuss today. So before I begin, if I could ask you to hit like on the podcast for my efforts in putting this out there, I would appreciate it. It helps it get seen by other people as opposed to if you didn't. So thank you so much. So this started with a question from a fellow seeker. Often some of you will send me questions on the Law of One Instagram or just in my Patreon messages, anything of that matter. I'm always open to having a look at. So one of my friends here has asked a question. He says, how do we reconcile the need to accept and love people who commit evil with the utter intolerance of the murder, war, etc.? Where do we draw the line? Is there a line to be drawn? Does a physical action in this density to thwart evil even hold sway over tipping the scale of global polarization? And when he means global polarization, he means in terms of tipping it towards positive polarization. And I have a few quotes lined up, but I'm just going to let you know how I answered him at first. So I said, this I find is similar to that quote about recognizing someone's polarity, but choosing otherwise. You can accept their version of polarity and why they do what they do, which doesn't necessarily mean that you stand by and allow it on your watch. Like, obviously, you wouldn't be trying to control someone else, but you can lend your voice to truth, or what you consider to be the truth. In my head, I tend to love them from a perspective that they know not what they do. In reality, I still like to voice my concerns about what is good and what is concerning. And of course, healing those warlike aspects within the self. Since we only have vague control over ourselves and not other selves, we should internalize those things and work on ourselves. If everyone did this, the world would be a better place. So may as well practice what you preach within your own life, not succumbing to anger and retribution in a way that feels justified, as that's often what they are doing or acting out as justification for their evil. So firstly, be a good example of rooting out the evil in your own life and purifying your own intentions, and then speak power to truth in any form that you feel is appropriate, just remembering acceptance over control. And why? And that's because acceptance is the energy that we are working with the open heart, which is the goal of this sort of density, is to make the choice and open your heart. And the heart is often one that works with acceptance rather than controlling things. That would be controlling is of the negative polarity, of the negative aspects of the choices that you could make to manipulate and control other people and in order to achieve certain ends. And, as small and nuanced as that last part is about control over acceptance, that really does hold a lot of sway in this whole argument about how do we deal with evil? How do we fix this, seemingly evil aspects of the world? We just have to remember that everyone has their free will to choose as they're going to choose, and as much as you may try to influence their free will and in terms of polarizing positively and suggesting that that's a healthy thing to do, you can do that as long as you're doing it in the ways of not forcing your opinion on other people and not infringing on their free will in certain ways as to, making sure that they do that. All we can really do in terms of controlling anything is we can sort of control ourselves, which, control is a sketchy word to use because we're trying to accept ourselves. But, you know what I'm trying to say, right? You can't control other people, but you do have control over the way that you see things. And so, it's best to internalize this outward evil that you see and try to heal it within yourself. And as you do that, the world heals as well. You are now being an example of the energies that you wish to see in the world. And honestly, that does speak to people more than just telling them what to do. When they see you living the example that you're wishing to set, it is way more powerful and speaks to them on a way more authentic level than if you were just to tell them to be a good person. And so I have a quote lined up for you, and this is from December 25th, 2010, and this talks about the same ideas of how you came here to love, not necessarily to fix things. So they state, the truth is often not what one wants to see. It is not all tied up in a pretty bow. It is not all positive. It does not seem to be fair. That is, it does not seem to be beautiful or true or just or equitable. And yet you see all these things because you are being bombarded constantly by fourth density light. Stop there for a moment. What's fourth density light? Well, we are in the third density moving into the fourth density, and so as the energies of the fourth density start to overlay on this third density, if you understand that the fourth density is that of love and understanding, so that it sort of pushes more truth and love into our dimension, it's almost like you are starting to see things with the eyes of love and the eyes of truth, and so you may see things that don't seem of love and don't seem of truth, more so than you would have if these energies weren't here. So continuing on. So yes, there is every reason to feel more tired than usual, to be wary with the world's heavy energies. And yet you came here to serve. This is the moment for which you sacrificed so much. Now you are here. Now you are on the ground. Now you are in the midst of the fire, and it certainly is wearying. Yet comfort yourself with the knowledge that you did not come here to fix things. You came here to love things, to love yourself, and to love those around you, to love all of the tribe of humankind, and above all, to love the Creator. Therefore, it's all right to feel weary. One feels weary at sundown, and it is truly sundown for your planet and your people. At the end of this incarnation, each of you shall walk the steps of light. This is your last incarnation upon this particular planet in this particular environment. Consequently, rejoice in your time, however wearing it may seem. You are in the place you sacrificed comfort and family and the remembrance of how things truly are, so that you could serve and learn. And you are serving, my sister, you are learning, and so are all those who seek at this time. End of quote. And so you see, we are, as I stated just a second ago, that we're moving from the third density to the fourth density, and you could consider that, like a sundown time. The sun is going down on the third density, and the fourth density sun shall rise, let's say. But in that, right, you get to see a lot of the truth of the world, and you get to see, as the love is overlaid of the planet, that you get to see things that don't seem to be love. And so it can be wearing. It's like as if the world is revealing itself. No, things are less hidden than before. It's easier to see truth. It's easier to see evil, let's say, when you see it. But just recognize that you didn't necessarily come here to abridge the free will of every other being on this planet that seeks the way that they do, whether positively or negatively. But you came here to be a creature of love. You came here to open that heart chakra and to take part in this intense catalyst that is the end of our third density. And you came here to be a creature of love. You came here to see things with love. You came here to love other people, even amongst all of this chaos. And that is the goal or lesson of this density. As I stated in the last podcast briefly, I will say it again here from the raw material, session 10.14. Raw states, Exercise 1. This is the most nearly centered and usable within your illusion complex. The moment contains love. That is, the lesson/goal of this illusion or density. The exercise is to consciously seek that love in awareness and understanding distortions. End of quote. So you see, exercise 1 being clearly important. It is the most nearly centered and usable within our third density. That is, the moment contains love. The more that you set your intention to see love in every single moment, no matter how positive or negative it seems, then, my friend, you are, I suppose, working with the reality of things. You are working with the truth of the goals of this lesson and this density that we are in. And you may ask, how can I open my heart? And although this may be a reiteration of the last quote in another way, in session 102.11, Ra also states, each entity must, in order to completely unblock yellow ray, love all which are in relationship to it, with hope only for the other self's joy, peace, and comfort. End of quote. And as they were talking about how to unblock the yellow ray is the yellow chakra, the third chakra. It's the one that goes just before the heart. It's the one that precedes the heart. And as energy moves up through our system, through the chakras, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, the energy moves up from red, orange, yellow into the green, into the heart chakra. And so how do we, make the pathway open and clear to the heart chakra? chakra, at least in terms of the yellow chakra, the third one, well, to unblock the yellow ray and make your way into the heart, you would like to love all which are in relationship to you with only hope for their, joy, peace, and comfort. And since we're on the topic, how to properly, I suppose, open the heart, the next chakra, the fourth chakra, would be to love everyone who is not in relationship to you, right? In the yellow ray, you love everyone who is in relationship to you, in other words, people that you know. And when you open the heart, you are dealing with the more full spectrum of all humans on the planet, or that in existence even, and you're trying to love all of those entities whom you don't even know, right? All of the good, all of the evil, you're trying to see love in them. As distorted as it may be, everything is the creator, and the creator is a creature of love, and therefore everything that you see is love in some sort of distorted fashion. And so you may ask yourself, well, what is a wise thing to do? Should I be going out and protesting? Should I be constantly on social media trying to get my points across as to recognizing evil people? Should I be fighting in a war? Right? All of these wonderful choices that we get on this planet. And that's the intention of my podcast here. It's like, well, what's helpful, right? So we want to focus our energy on what is helpful. So if we take into consideration the nature of our experience and that we are trying to see love everywhere and be a creature of love, things can come into more clarity. So I'm going to continue on with that quote from December 25th, 2010, and this is on energy expenditure. In other words, how to use the energy wisely, let's say. So they state, energy expenditure, especially when it is devoted to the energies of self-judgment, self-criticism, and a lack of self-forgiveness, are energies that are unwisely spent. Once these energies are dedicated to self-judgment and related energies, those energies are no longer free to be used for love service. Consequently, although it may seem difficult to do at first, we encourage you at all times to come from a place of being self-forgiven, in full knowledge of your worth, and with no tendency towards self-criticism. It is not that we would suggest that you stop noticing when you make errors. Self-perceived errors are helpful, and mistakes are the way that people learn, whatever their field of study. However, it is useless to become angry at the self because one has added 2 and 2 and gotten 5. It is only necessary to note down that 2 and 2 equal 4 and to move from that premise in the future. And I'm just going to stop there for a brief moment. Of course, what they're trying to say here is that you're wasting your energy when you're wasting your energy on self-judgment and self-criticism, right? Like, you need to have an authentic eye towards yourself, of course. As they stated, they're not suggesting that you just ignore your self-perceived errors, but you want to just go easy on yourself, right? You want to take it easy on yourself. When you make a mistake, learn from it, and don't chastise yourself for the next week about making that mistake. Make the mistake, recognize the mistake for what it was, and move on, right? 2 plus 2 equals 5? No. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Ah, dang it. Chastising over. Okay, I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm not going to hate myself for it. And I would also suggest that as you do that, as you learn to love and forgive yourself for the self-perceived mistakes that you make, though it is so much easier to love the mistakes in other people when you see them. When you see those aspects of arrogance coming out in another person because they're sort of neglecting to admit that they've made a mistake, well, you can see it in them and it would bother you a lot less. You can see them with eyes of love rather than eyes of judgment. So continuing on with that quote, they state, the energy expenditures that you are called to are those of love. That is why you came, and that is why you remain. You are not yet done loving this planet and its people. Consequently, waste no time and judgment on yourself or on others, but only spend your energy on the inner planes for those purposes of dedicating all that you are and all that you have to the service of the one Creator, to being that entity of love that you intended to be when you chose to come here. End of quote. So yeah, there's all that spiritual gaslighting type stuff that, like, you chose this, deal with it. You chose this. You chose to came here, which it's fairly true. So although it sort of sounds like lame to be like it's kind of like spiritual gaslighting, like, well, all the bad things, you agreed to them before you came here. Well, is as hard as that may be to accept, it does seem to be true. And they state in here too that as long as you are here listening to this podcast, right, you're here on this planet, then you still have work to do, right? You have work in love to do. You have work to love on yourself and to work to love on the rest of this world and the rest of the people in it. You are a creature of love. And let's say as you master those lessons of love, then, eventually you will move on from this density. But since we are all here together, we would do well to realign and refocus our energies on seeing love in the moment, both being kind to ourselves, being kind to others, so that we can just be a better representative of love. Okay, and the last quote that I have from the same session from Quo, they's talking about an enlightened being. So I don't post this part to to be like, oh, look at us, we're all enlightened, or I'm enlightened, anything like that. It's just more just the ideal. Obviously, we're sort of reaching towards the ideal. We are not particularly perfect, but we want to strive towards perfection to what degree we can, right? So they're talking about an enlightened being. How would they sort of act? Well, they state here, in general, an enlightened being is one who is aware in an accurate and far-reaching manner of the nature of his environment, so that he is not only able to live serenely in the midst of the chaos that swims between every breath upon your planet Earth existence, but is also able to share this vision that transcends the multiplicity of detail and brings together a unified picture of how things are to others. End of quote. And so maybe you see what I'm trying to get at in this podcast, right? We would like to be aware of the nature of our environment, and that this is a density of love. That is the goal / lesson of this density, to see love, to be an example of love, a creature of love. And so we are aware of the nature of our environment. And how do we do that, right? With unblocking the yellow ray, we would like to only wish for love, joy, and peace and comfort of others. And in that, also for ourselves, that we are wishing the best for ourselves and for others. And that can help us to not get so caught up in the chaos of all the evil that's going on in the world and all of the wars and all of that fun stuff, right? That we get to experience here in this third density. We can serenely breathe in the chaos that swims between every breath upon our planet. But we can also share our vision with others, and we can kind of try to bring things into unity and to share that love of existence and this philosophy with others, which is, what I'm attempting to do here today. So I hope that brings you some clarity as to what you can do in the world about all the negativity that you see. It may not be as easy as you thought, in that, I was just going to tell you to go out there and be a force for good and just smash evil and all of that stuff, right? Although that seems to sometimes be the way to our human minds, it often is only just infringing on the free will of others. And the world isn't just black and white as we sometimes like to think of it as, right? We like to, sometimes in our heads, we think that everything's like a Marvel movie where there's good people and then there's evil people, right? There's the oppressed and there's the oppressors. There's the villains and there's the heroes. And we like to sometimes make things out to be black and white like that, so then we can choose the good side and then, call the other side evil, which then justifies all sorts of atrocities from both sides, as they feel justified in their retribution of getting back at people for being the evil ones, right? That seems to be the third density way of human thinking, human thought, and that leads to all of these wars and holy wars and things like that. And so only if, everyone on the planet could understand that the evil that exists out in the world exists within their own hearts, and as we each attempt to love ourselves and love others and heal the evil that exists within ourselves and be the example that we wish to see in terms of extending love and compassion towards other beings and towards ourselves, the more that everyone would be willing to do that, this world would transform overnight. If only we could do that. But, right, otherwise, people like to split it up into, well, these people are good and these people are evil. But my friends, like I said, it's not all black and white. There are hues of grays. There is shadows everywhere. Shadows deceive. Although sometimes the shadow can represent something that may be true, it can also deceive as it distorts the true picture of things. And so, as easy as it might be to just tell you to pick a good side and choose good over evil, it's not going to be that easy. What you have to do is internalize these things within yourself, be the example that you wish to see, be a creature of love, love others, love yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and just attempt to heal these things within yourself. And that is all you can do. But that all you can do is a work of a lifetime. And so don't underestimate the work before you. So I hope that helps you in these chaotic times that we are all present in. And I hope that this serves you well. If you appreciated this podcast today, once again, if I could just ask you to hit the old like button, that helps with getting it seen by other people. If you appreciate my service and efforts in making these podcasts and my posts on Instagram and all of that fun stuff, I am human and I need sustenance as well. So if you'd like to jump on my Patreon, I like to give all of this for free. I'm not going to put anything behind a paywall, as I believe that is the nature of the open heart, is to freely give and freely receive. And so if you find value in what I do, I would really appreciate it if you jumped on my Patreon. You can also shoot me a one-time or a recurring PayPal. Anything helps. Anytime I see something come through, I smile, I shoot a prayer your way. I thank you all for your continued love my way and supporting these efforts and attempting to share all of this Law of One shenanigans with everyone that is, available to hear it. So thank you everyone for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care.